Good evening. I hope this video finds you well. I hope this video finds you at all. Because I have some things I've been just dying to ask you to get your thoughts on it. And they have to do with the nature of science and religion. I'm not sure why people put those two things in separate camps. I mean, I know why they do it, but I don't think that they should. Because the way I see it, science is the study of the external world, and religion is the study of the internal world. And every day, our internal world is interacting with our external world. Starting, like the place of origin, is the internal world. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. I have my doubts in science. As far as I'm concerned, science is a labeling system. It labels components and processes and systems. It identifies and names things. It doesn't necessarily tell you why it happens. It sort of attempts to answer how it happens, but even then, it doesn't necessarily address the question of what the underlying perpetuating force of life is. Yes, we know that grass grows because of this, that, and other, but where is that energy coming from? It's coming from the sun, but that thing that's behind life, that's pushing everything, where does that come from? What is it? Another problem with science that I have is that it's only able to isolate a small fraction of any particular system and see what happens within the confines of that observation. I think in order to understand the universe, you would have to be able to see the universe as a whole from somewhere outside the universe and be able to see every component at every place at every time in a moment. And that is impossible. We cannot do that. I think reality is a closed system, and the best that we're able to do is isolate a portion of that system, an infinitesimally small portion of that system, and make conjectures and observations about that system, totally unable to see how that system relates to all other systems. So, for example, a scientist looking at an atom can make some rudimentary observations about the atom, but the atom is, in my opinion, the way I've come to understand the universe, the atom is inextricably connected to the device that's being used to view the atom, which is inextricably connected to the scientist using the device at that moment in time. But I don't think modern scientists are creative enough to even ask the right questions. Reality has multiple layers, and we really don't have any way of quantifying how many layers reality has. And so, again, in the way I've come to understand things, you can't isolate a layer of reality and make observations on that layer alone without having some understanding about its neighboring layers. There's that principle, that biblical principle that says, as above, so below. And the New Agers like to use it a lot too, but I do think there's some truth in that. I do think that there are patterns that transcend and descend throughout the layers, patterns that are interrelated that we're not necessarily aware of, that we can't necessarily observe. So I don't think a lot of scientists are creative enough to ask the right questions. I think all the layers of reality, let's say, for example, let's say there's 10 layers of reality. There's probably more. But just for this example, let's say that there's 10 layers of reality, and we have a working knowledge of roughly, 4 of them, maybe 6 of them. So let's say we have an understanding of 6 of the 10 layers of reality. Well, there's 4 other layers that we're probably not even aware of that are there, that are crucial to the understanding of reality as a whole, all 10 layers. And so if you don't even know those 4 other layers are there and you're just stuck, you can't see the whole picture unless you have an understanding of all 10 layers. Because if you don't have all 10 layers, you might as well have 0. It's one of those things where I believe you have to have an understanding of every layer of reality in order to have an understanding of any layer of reality. That's not to say that we haven't made some observations that have turned out to be true, or we haven't made some predictions that have turned out to be true. But I think in order to understand fully what we are, what our purpose is, how we should act, the why of everything comes from understanding that there are forces at work that we are not privy to, and that these layers are above us and they are below us, and we are suspended somewhere in the middle, in this perfect harmony between this ultimate expansion, which would be light, and this ultimate collapse, which would be darkness. And the tension between this light and the darkness suspends our reality in this sort of temporal harmony. So I would really love for this video to get to you and to hear you comment on some of these things. So if that does happen, feel free to contact me. And yeah, I would love to hear what you have to say.